Don't be a moron. Listen up, my disciples. Bitcoin a scam? That's rich. Every time Bitcoin skyrockets, these scam screamers vanish. Then the same clueless folks start asking, is it too late to buy now? They don't truly want to understand. They just want a little comfort or an excuse to finally pull the trigger. Those who only pay attention to an asset after it's already pumped usually face two outcomes. They miss the rally entirely. They buy at the peak and get stuck. That's right, you heard me. Whether they buy or not, the result ain't good because they don't respect money. They invest blindly, follow the herd, full of personal emotion. We owe these suckers a debt of gratitude. If they don't lose, how do we make money? The I Ching itself said it. The 20 years after 2024 will be the era of dynamism tied to virtual assets and the internet, including cryptocurrencies, which will be the most profitable assets. So, should you invest in Bitcoin in 2025? If you're still asking these questions, you'll stay stuck in this loop. 2025? 2026? What about the future? If you don't want your social standing to be fixed, if you can't be sure your mindset will change, if you suddenly accept Bitcoin one day but by then the price has soared beyond your reach, then let me tell you, if you'll eventually want to invest in Bitcoin, you must watch this entire video. I sincerely wish those who hit the like button on this video financial freedom sooner rather than later. This channel shares wealth-building philosophies for investors, entrepreneurs, and the wealthy. If you don't want to miss out, subscribe for free and hit that notification bell. Part 1. The real scam. The truth is, too many people are passively living inside a real scam, and they don't even know it. That's the scariest part. They see crisis, but only the danger, never the opportunity. They think cash is king. So they save, don't invest, trying to ride out one crisis after another. Sounds logical, right? Good for you. You had $1 million, now you've saved $2 million. But here's the kicker. Back then, with $1 million, you could afford a city apartment. Now, you've got $2 million, your assets doubled, but you can't even buy a damn bathroom. The more you save, the more things you can't afford. Why? Remember this so-called scam is actually designed to punish those who love saving money. Part 2, who profits from printing money? Normal logic. Economy slows down. First thing you do is stimulate jobs, stimulate production. People get money, they spend, they invest, and the economy recovers. But the American capitalists, they tell you the opposite works just fine. Just print money, give it to the people. When they have it, they'll naturally spend and invest. Jobs improve, economy gets better. Sounds reasonable, you might even agree. But here's the problem. They say they'll print money and give it to everyone, right? So why is it every time the Fed announces they're printing mountains of cash, it never lands in our pockets? At this point, the Federal Reserve will tell you, this newly printed money isn't just handed out. For example, the Fed prints money, then lends it to banks at a rock-bottom 1% interest. Then these banks lend it out at 2%. They pocket that 1% difference. And 2% on $1 million loan is just $20,000 a year, practically interest-free. So everyone wants to borrow this money, but banks won't lend to everyone. Simple reason. If you had $100 million today and everyone came to borrow, would you lend to all of them? Of course not. Most can't pay you back. Lend $1 million, you make $10,000 in interest, but risk losing the whole $1 million. Who'd do that business? So, banks only pick a select few business owners, investors, with collateral to lend to. These rich guys, once they get their hands on this cheap money, they snowball their investments. They buy land, build a few towers, sell them for double the profit. During construction, many industries get a boost. The economy slowly picks up. This approach is about enriching a segment of the wealthy first, and then they spend and invest, supposedly pulling the whole society up. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? In reality, the rich get nearly free money, use leverage and make a fortune. What about the average person? How does printing money affect you? America prints another $10 billion. Do you see a dime? You can only beg the rich to hire you. They use their borrowed money to hire you. so they can make even more. Printing money also means more money flooding the market. That means the hard-earned salary you grind for is quietly losing value. Simply put, printing money is silent theft. As long as you save money, your purchasing power is quietly being transferred to those who have access to new money. In other words, fiat currency and saving are the real scam. Part 3. The truth about virtual currency. To make people faithfully believe in this scam, they'll tell you all other currencies are scams. Gold, silver are scams, just chemical elements. Bitcoin is even more of a scam because it's virtual. You can't see it, can't touch it. Only fools buy a string of code like that, right? But have you ever thought, money now is virtual anyway? I've got $100 million in my bank account. Do I convert it all to cash and stash it at home so I can see and touch it, feel it's more real? Of course not. The physical cash I carry is probably just a few dozen bucks. When I pay my employees, it's just a string of numbers decreasing in my account. Today, I make $1 million. I don't actually hold that million in my hand. It's just my bank account balance increasing by $1 million. Go abroad, and you'll see. Hardly anyone uses a wallet. They all pay with their phones. So, does currency really need to be seen and touched? Furthermore, the US dollar has no printing limit. Once printing begins, it's irreversible, unstoppable. What does this mean? It means people's assets can be fine at noon, but sooner or later, they'll be stripped bare. Look at Venezuela. People used paper money to clean. Business owners ended up paying employees with food. The outcome? People there had no choice but to buy Bitcoin to protect their assets. Part 4. Who's the real scammer? Ironically, the Venezuelan government even deployed its military to mine Bitcoin. Yet Bitcoin has a fixed supply of just 21 million. No one can increase that number. So, something the American capitalists can't control, something that threatens the dollar's hegemony, they only have one choice. They must destroy it. Before, they wouldn't acknowledge it, called it a scam. But what truly defines a scam? A scam is making a promise and then failing to deliver. That's a scam. Why did the whole world use US dollars before? Because American capitalists said using gold for transactions was inconvenient. So they proposed, everyone use US dollars because behind the dollar is gold as collateral. You hold dollars, you can exchange them for gold anytime. The result? When all countries use dollars for trade, the American capitalist families declared, from now on, dollars can no longer be exchanged for gold. Anyway, you people keeping gold, what good is it? Then, with everyone holding dollars, they fired up the printing presses, making everyone's money increasingly worthless. Isn't that making a promise and then reneging on it? Then they withdrew their promise. So, what has Bitcoin promised you? It has never promised high returns if you buy it. It hasn't promised to replace the US dollar. Furthermore, almost all information related to it is public. How much Bitcoin exists? If anyone's been buying large quantities recently, you can easily look it up. So, when there are no promises, what has Bitcoin scammed you out of? Take famous paintings by Picasso or Van Gogh, auctioned for hundreds of millions of US dollars. Is that a scam? Within the art world, I feel it's worth that. But to someone who doesn't understand art, if you don't tell them it's a Picasso and you gift it to them, they might not even want it, perhaps even throw it away because they have nowhere to hang it. So why is a painting worth hundreds of millions? If that painting dropped to 10 million, 1 million, or became affordable to everyone, would it still be considered a scam? By the same logic, Bitcoin can go from a few cents to tens of thousands of dollars. Is that considered a scam? If you're not in the Bitcoin circle, it might seem worthless in your eyes. But value and whether something is a scam are two entirely different things. As long as there are people willing to buy, people willing to sell, no one forces you to buy or sell Bitcoin, and there's no multi-level marketing scheme involved, then it cannot be called a scam. You can say Bitcoin's value is inflated, but you can't call it a scam. For us, whether Bitcoin's value is inflated or not doesn't really matter. Only those who missed the rally and didn't make money care about that. Part 5. The power behind Bitcoin. Some still don't get it, because since childhood, they've been taught that only governments can issue currency, so they think Bitcoin was created by the people. If we all use this currency, Satoshi Nakamoto, its inventor, will become a millionaire out of thin air because he's the founder and holds the most Bitcoin in the world. Unfair? You'll find that the Federal Reserve, the agency that issues the dollar, isn't actually a government organization. It's a system of private banks. The power to issue currency has historically been not in the hands of governments, but in the hands of major financial conglomerates and powerful families. As for Bitcoin's inventor, Satoshi Nakamoto, no one knows who that is. The amount of Bitcoin they hold has never been sold. Most importantly, the amount of Bitcoin to be issued is fixed at only 21 million, and no one can change that. This is called decentralization. In fact, anyone can create currency. The key is whether it gets accepted. For instance, during the Han Dynasty, the government allowed people to freely issue currency as long as it was used. This non-interventionist, natural policy is called a free market in economics, what economists advocate most. Thanks to this, the Wenjing period achieved such economic prosperity. The US dollar no longer has gold backing, but it has the backing of the US government, representing economic, military, and political power. We believe America won't collapse, so we trust the US dollar. So, what's behind Bitcoin? It's simple. Individuals so wealthy they rival nations. Today, how much money we have, where it goes, who sends it, whether we've paid taxes, the government knows it all. But truly wealthy people value privacy and security immensely. Elon Musk's publicly stated net worth is $200 billion, but that figure is certainly underestimated. Because we don't know how much cash, gold, or Bitcoin he truly holds, those are all hidden assets. Currently, the US is sanctioning Russia, and the bank accounts of wealthy Russians have been frozen. What then? No problem. They've transferred their assets into Bitcoin. If you make $100 million today, you have to pay taxes. But what if I make $100 million today in Bitcoin? Many scam organizations in northern Myanmar, hackers in North Korea, or dirty money from corruption actually mostly use Bitcoin and Ethereum for money laundering because cryptocurrencies are very difficult to monitor. In other words, behind cryptocurrencies are individuals as wealthy as nations who highly value privacy, or it can also be a safe haven for illicit money flows. So do you think those people will let Bitcoin collapse? Part 6. The 16-year bubble and the future. Even if you still think it's a scam, Bitcoin is a scam that has existed for 16 years. If you invest in stocks, 95% of companies in the world don't live as long as Bitcoin. The tulip mania bubble lasted 3 years. From boom to bust, just 3 years. But the so-called Bitcoin bubble has lasted 16 years. It hasn't burst, and it keeps hitting new highs. I truly hope you think carefully. Is holding advanced technology riskier, or is holding fiat cash and not moving into digital assets the greater risk? Imagine, if in the future our asset portfolio doesn't include Bitcoin, it's like we're betting against ourselves, against a future with strong growth potential. Why? This is the key point, the secret I want to share. Now, whether it's the US government or the financial tycoons, they are quietly changing direction entirely. Many people have no idea. The powers that be have realized that the scale of money flow in the Bitcoin ecosystem is truly massive. Simply put, more and more people are joining the Bitcoin market, which means more and more money is flowing in. They can't control the amount of Bitcoin, but they can control the Bitcoin market. Therefore, a country that once didn't recognize Bitcoin's legitimacy suddenly approved a Bitcoin ETF, allowing Bitcoin to be traded like stocks on the stock market. Before, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, you had to go through crypto exchanges, which were very prone to scams, money locked, couldn't withdraw. But now, people can buy Bitcoin ETF in the US, just like buying stocks. This means people are trading Bitcoin and using US dollars to pay. Just like before, when everyone in international trade had to use US dollars for payment, buying oil also required US dollars. Currently, the US is linking Bitcoin to the US dollar. Anyone who wants to buy Bitcoin must use dollars for payment. This further strengthens the dollar's dominant position. Because of this, Many people who previously didn't care about Bitcoin are now starting to invest in it through ETFs, as buying and selling has become much easier. A prime example, US President Trump, who was previously very much against cryptocurrencies, recently publicly stated that he now owns a large amount of crypto. Doesn't that mean the US has officially recognized the status of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? Think about it. Will the US consider Bitcoin a reserve asset like gold? When a superpower starts accumulating Bitcoin, and currently Bitcoin's market cap is only 1/10 of gold's, that means Bitcoin's price is still too cheap and needs to increase tenfold to be considered reasonable. Warren Buffett, who once called Bitcoin rat poison, is now invested in a bank that primarily provides Bitcoin buying and selling services to clients. Buffett's investment principle has always been to never invest in what he doesn't understand or trust, yet now he's involved in the crypto space? Doesn't this show he started to acknowledge Bitcoin's value? Many wealthy individuals who once definitively stated they would not touch cryptocurrencies are now quietly changing course, pouring money into strategic allocations with Bitcoin. So, is the question, is Bitcoin a scam, still relevant? Many people are willing to pay more to buy one Bitcoin. Simply put, with each passing day, people are willing to pay a higher price to buy it. Regardless of whether they are large institutional investors or retail investors, everyone is increasingly optimistic about Bitcoin. Conclusion: accumulation and your destiny. Of course, there are many other methods to judge whether Bitcoin is in an uptrend, but the most important thing we need to know is that Bitcoin is currently still in an uptrend cycle. The bull market is not yet at its end, because only in a bull market do prices easily go up, and we can easily make money. Most people, whether investing in stocks or Bitcoin, lose money. The reason? They like to buy in the late stages of a cycle. They love to buy the dip, buying more as it drops. The result, the more they lose, the more money they pour in, making mistakes more severe, and eventually they can't get out. Before, Bitcoin's price was flat, neither rising nor falling. This showed that while many people were taking profits and selling, many others were still confident in buying Bitcoin. That's why the price didn't move. We call this sideways trend in a price range accumulation of force. Currently, the price is approaching a resistance zone. Once it breaks through that resistance, bursting upwards, a new surge will begin. In the next 20 years, your destiny lies in a single thought within your heart. Time is limited, so I'll stop the video here. I share free knowledge on how to become wealthy, an entrepreneur, an investor, and achieve financial freedom. If you don't want to miss out, follow my channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video freely. I sincerely wish all brothers and sisters who hit the like button on this video to achieve financial freedom soon. If in today's video you found just one or two useful sayings that help you live better, then I am content.